Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I have a familiar guest with me back. I have with me Cory Endrulat, and Cory teaches natural intelligence, or I believe it's natural law is what we're going to be talking about. And his goal is to connect all generations with a message, with a mission, and a message. You can subscribe to his channel if you want to get the world to thinking more in the effort to understand the world around us. He wants to build a community willing to question anything and everything. He's not afraid to speak out loud openly. He has analysis, dot connecting, documentaries, seminars, recipes, resources, public events, live stream, and more all on his YouTube. And he has a tap link. It's taplink.cc/Cory Health. And a little bit more about him. Cory Edmund Endrulat was born in the year 2000. He's young. Wow. That's awesome that younger people are getting into this. I think that's amazing. He's an abolitionist, an author, a speaker, no title fellow messenger of nature is the answer movement, integrative nutrition health coach, natural law teacher. You can support his work if you want. You can buy him a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Nita, Nita. And, you can subscribe to his YouTube at youtube.com/Cory Nature is the answer. And I'd like to give him, and I put all that in the description. So I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Cory Endrulat, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
Thank you. I appreciate it. I like talking with you. I love seeing you, your persistence, your live streams, always appreciated. And being willing to talk about anything and everything as you do, even if it gets you in trouble sometimes. You are really outspoken about, everything going on, but trying to find out the deeper aspects, the things that people aren't always willing to question, like UFOs and spirituality and things that people are like, oh no, there's like always some sort of limit for people. It's like, I can't talk about that. But for me, I find it fascinating. When people say I had this experience, I was abducted or whatever, I find that absolutely fascinating. And I'm not one to shut down talks like that at all.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it gets pretty wild on here. People talk about being abducted by the military and targeted individuals and secret space program. I mean, I cover it all. I like to say my channel's really fringe. It's covered. I cover all the fringe topics. But that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Like this natural law, natural intelligence. Even though it's very peaceful, it's kind of a fringe topic as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we live in a day and age where people look up to AI. Right? This is the source of all the answers to all my problems. All I have to do is type in a small prompt and boom, it gives you everything I need. Oh, write me an essay, oh, write me a speech. Oh, write me a book, write me, send me audio too. Oh, make videos for me. And then at certain points, soon people will be looking up to AI for pretty much everything in their life. I mean, that is the goal, right? Is we have this intelligence that we can just tap into at any moment, created by man, because, we are just fascinating creatures that can just create other programs for other people and tell them how to think, and what to think, but not actually encouraging their natural intelligence. And that is what I'm talking about. The natural intelligence is the key to our survival. It's the key to us living. Because without natural intelligence, you wouldn't have artificial intelligence. It's man who created AI. So if you don't understand the roots, what happens? The tree falls. You don't have a foundation, the building falls. When people are looking up to AI and they are looking up to those solutions, what's going to happen? They're not going to start using their brain. They're not going to start learning how to write books for themselves and learning how to do these different things themselves. They're going to look up to AI to do it for them. It makes them dependent. Just as social media made them antisocial, AI is going to make them less intelligent, not more. But it's your choice of what you do with it. If you have the higher consciousness and you're using your natural intelligence with artificial intelligence, you won't have that burden on you. You have to have the both. You have to have the two. It's the same thing with any man-made thing. AI is just a very complicated, complex man-made thing. It's many man-made things together. That's why people fear it more than, let's say, alcohol or a cup or anything man-made that people will see problems with. Like I see problems with everything man-made in our world because we take from nature and we turn to different forms. But people are not likely to complain about a house compared to artificial intelligence, which will quite literally, as Elon Musk said, can be more dangerous than nuclear bombs, can be summoning the demon. This is what he said. So, why is he saying that? right? Houses made to take us away from nature because we're not outside, we're not harvesting, we're not necessarily with our communities. We may be isolated, we may be exposed to technology, and technology is affecting our brain and distracting us and making us infertile and all these other things, right? And we can say that's a problem, but AI is taking this to another level where now you have AI smart homes that are telling you how to live your own life, dictating your actions, and that's when we have to be very careful, right? So
I
if we're not
agree.
in charge of our actions, we don't know what's happening to us unconsciously, we're going to be manipulated, because that's what manipulation is. It's when we are having unconscious relationships in our life. Things are taking control of us. We don't understand how they're controlling us. And that's where it's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So where do we go from here as a society? I mean, and do you think it was weird that like Elon kind of jumped on the Trump chain, or like, or do you think that was kind of expected?
Well, he's a businessman and he's probably looking at, well, what's perhaps the best route for my business and moving into the world. And he may genuinely believe that Trump is a good person for office to fulfill those needs. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, for the mass majority of the public, him included, he has no understanding of how history repeats itself in regards to statism, which is that belief system that I often talk about within my works, and that is the belief in human authority. Once you put somebody in that pedestal, in that position, and you say, we got to vote for him, we got to put him in power over everybody, that's going to cause a big problem. And I've been detailing this psychologically, culturally, socially, historically on my channel through a numerous amount of ways. As you said, I talk about documentaries and seminars. I mean, I do all of it for people. So it's like at a certain point, it's like, do I want to produce another video? Because I feel like I already have it. At a certain point, we need to start getting the outreach. We need to start reaching out to the influencers, to the people who have the audiences, because they are the ones who need this information the most. They don't have it. They don't know what statism is. They never heard of that term. They never heard of voluntarism. They never heard of permaculture. Elon Musk, if he just took one rocket, it's like $64 million, and put that into food forests, we'd have no poverty, no hunger, basically no disease in America. But
I
how come he
know.
doesn't do it?
Right. I know he has enough money to change the world in a good way, and he doesn't do it. You know what I mean? He does. All those people are homeless on the streets, and like he could help a lot of people. You know.
Yes.
But
Now,
you're right. It seems like he aligns with a political party, which people think he's good. They're like, oh, he's Trump now. Elon's on our side, and he bought Twitter, and he's going to make things free. But how free really is it? You know what I mean? I have to ask at the end of it. And why does Elon have 6,000 satellites in space? Do you know that he has? I heard he has that many in space. What's the need for Starlink? Nobody even has Starlink internet. You know what I mean? I know I don't. Most of the people I know don't have it. So like, what is going on with all these satellites? And you have to I start to question these things. And I wonder what he knows about space on a bigger level. Because I talk about all these fringe topics, and I wonder he has to know something's going on up there, or so. So I have my questions on Elon. On a larger scale. I don't know what
yeah.
his motivations are.
Anybody can be inspired, and if Elon's listening to this or he happens to come across my message, I have nothing against them, because frankly, I view everybody as human beings, and I don't look at anybody higher or lesser than anybody else. That's how the so-called elites treat us. They're they're the bottom of the barrel as far as I'm concerned. They're not elites. They're the exact opposite. We're all elites. We all have the divine right to rule over ourselves. And so I treat people as such. I don't say Hillary or any of these people that people want to say, point the fingers all day, they're the problem. I don't do that. I say the problem lives here in what we do and our choices and our actions, because if everybody that follows Elon Musk says, hey, Elon, you got to do this, you got to put permaculture food forest around the nation in different cities, then he'll do it, because by the pressure of the public, that is the real government of this world. You cannot have one person telling people how to live their own lives and passing it through a law and using violence, which is every law, to create change in this world. It requires a shift in mentality, a shift in consciousness. The abolitionists couldn't have just said slavery is wrong if we write it on a piece of paper. They said we have to convince people that slavery is wrong. Otherwise, they're always going to think slavery is okay and perfectly natural, necessary for the economy and society, and that's exactly the excuses and justifications people gave to keep slavery. So they knew they had to face a moral change, a moral shift, and that was after thousands of years right? So thousands of years of people being ignorant to something so obvious, such as the fact someone owns themselves. So I'm not surprised if people are ignorant to something so obvious, such as growing food in a particular way that works intelligently with nature. I'm not surprised if people still believe in the monarchy, because most countries in the world still do, even though America doesn't. See, there's a progress that has to take place within humanity, and some people are there and other people are not there. But the people who are there can't shut those down who are not there, because we all need to lift each other up. And
I
we can't
agree.
waste our time distracted and focused on some of these few people who aren't going to help us do that. But they can. But we have to show by example, because they'll never understand it until we do.
I agree. I agree. So, tell us a little bit about natural law, because I had Brandon on my show from Expanding Reality the other day. I don't know if you watch his show, but he's getting really into like becoming a sovereign citizen. And he
Yes.
was telling me that like you can declare yourself sovereign on a tax form and you don't have to pay taxes. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, man, if I do that, my luck, the IRS is going to come after my ass. They're going to put me in jail. You know what I mean? Like, do you know anything about this? And does this pertain to
Yes.
natural law?
So it depends, right, on who you talk to. What you're referring to when it comes to paperwork is more so American common law and common law jurisdictions. Natural law is usually seen as that which is not the paperwork side of things, the side that is more aligned to morality, to the science of laws within the universe, spirituality. And that is not so much like, oh, what you have to do in court and who you have to give this paper and sign your paperwork a certain way and say certain legal jargon. Natural law doesn't really have to do with any of that. Natural law
Okay.
could be
Okay.
seen as like the Ten Commandments. It could be seen as the Golden Rule, karma, law of attraction, consequentialism. There's a bunch of names throughout history that people have used for natural law, but it has also been used against the populace because it makes people believe that it's coming from nature, like a source that they cannot escape, right? So power systems have used natural law, like in the 1940s. You'll know who I'm talking about if you read their books. And, you know, they talk about how certain cultures need to be in certain places because natural law says so, or the Catholic Church will say natural law says so, that this and this and that, so we need to go on a crusade and go capture these other folks. So people have used this term because it's effective at controlling the mind, but also at freeing the mind equally so, because nature has a very captivative um, presence among people. If you can capture the authority of nature and you can claim that you are the truth, then people will worship you as if you are, right? So they'll treat governments as gods. They'll treat technology as gods. They will bow down to them and do everything they say because they just value, put so much meaning and value into that external thing outside of themselves. And so now there's a lot of people recognizing, wait, the truth is not just outside of us, it also is inside of us. And we can't just have like a Western scientific point of view. We need to bring in the East. People are starting to realize this is an integration happening. This is more of our natural intelligence being developed. So technology can actually assist that process because we're spreading more information. But natural law then is more going to be understood as time evolves. So, for instance, the American deists in the 1700s, a lot of people say this country was founded by Christians, but a lot of our founding fathers were deists, and they were talking about natural law, and they were saying, hey, we can understand nature and morality without religion. We don't need the Bible. We don't need these middlemen. We don't need the churches. We can straight up just understand with our reason that that we can understand the truth. And so it was like a very freedom-based philosophy, right? So I think that's the natural law that Mark Passio teaches, and a lot of the modern natural law teachers talk about, is like this moral fabric of the universe that helps us determine our natural rights, that helps us determine that which we are all have as human beings born into this world. So that way nobody can oppress us, nobody can take us down. But if somebody doesn't agree with that, then you're going to have some issues of trying to convince them. So even better than that, you may say, would be voluntarism, which is the idea of like voluntarily going into contracts with people, voluntarily going into every interaction in your life. And so for me, that's even greater than like getting specific on a moral definition, because people will always disagree on what is natural law, what is a natural right, but they can't disagree with the fact that you want to live your own life as you please, and as long as you leave other people alone to live their own life as they please, that's freedom, right? It's freedom for all.
I agree. I agree. And I think more people are getting back to this, right? Like more people are embracing spirituality and like ditching religion
Hmm.
and more people. And even in like holistic health, like
Yep.
people are kind of like staying away from mainstream medical, or they're mixing mainstream medical with, like holistic health,
Yes,
which is,
exactly.
people are seeing a lot of benefit in like holistic practices. Even I know even some mainstream medical, that are like doing cancer treatments where they're incorporating, like reishi mushroom
Yep.
or mistletoe. I've heard mistletoe like helps like injected into cancer tumors, which is
Mm.
interesting. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that a lot of this stuff is coming back into our scope now with the
Yep.
expansion of consciousness that we're having and the Great Awakening. You could call it a Great Awakening. It seems like more people are waking up and more people want to be free. And when they just want to be free, they want to embrace stuff like what you're saying. It seems like.
Yes. But what if we can make natural intelligence just as popular as artificial intelligence? Because we're nailing it down. We say, hey, permaculture, voluntarism, it's emphasizing our conscience, what we have within us. Natural intelligence, I mean, look at the sky, look at the trees, look at the natural environment around us. It's producing images for us spontaneously every day without effort. But we're thinking, oh, AI is producing new images and art for us if we just click this button and give it a certain prompt. Nature has been doing it for thousands of years. Every sky is different. Every tree is different, even though we call it a tree and a sky. Every human being is different, even though we call it a human being. Nature is intelligent. Your body doesn't forget to breathe. Your heart doesn't forget to pump blood. It is an amazing, intelligent system. And when you tap into that and you understand it, that's when you can utilize it. And if you use your nature, you won't lose your nature. That's one of the common phrases I often say.
You talk about that a little bit, as that gets into our health, right? Which is the
Yes.
important thing right now. I mean, like with the way that what they're doing to our food, a lot of the food is poisoned. So this
Hmm.
goes into, a lot of people are wanting to do more at home farming and gardening. A lot of people are buying chickens and
Exactly.
raising chickens. People are growing their own vegetables. People are finding cleaner water sources because there's fluoride in the water and all kinds of chemicals and shit.
And
And
how much is their mind expanding because of that? How many questions are they starting to ask in their mind? How intelligent are they becoming? Right? And go back to
yeah.
like the ancient times, this idea of mastery. You want to become a master, you have to learn martial arts and learn how to paint and learning how to do music and learn how to do all these different things. People are now rediscovering that as they find out we have a loneliness epidemic and a depression epidemic and an anxiety epidemic and a mental health. It's across the board epidemics that can all be solved through using our natural intelligence in every way possible. Like we're supposed to have strong communities. We're supposed to have food right outside our door, the garden kitchen where we can just grab any herb that we want. We're supposed to barter plants with each other. Like these are basic things that we've had for thousands of years. So of course we feel abandoned. Of course we don't feel like things are right. Everybody feels it in some degree, even if they don't have a grasp of it and they don't know how to get out of it. So we have to help people simply guide them in what they already intuitively know inside themselves. They know what's generally right and wrong. Most people know murder and theft and violence is wrong. Well, if that's the case, then why are we allowing it through governments? People simply have not applied their own understanding, their own comprehension of the world to everything that they do and know. They simply have been suppressed from looking at certain things. They say, oh, well, question things, but don't question this, or think what is right and wrong, but don't use your conscience in the case of authority and order following. And so there's always these exceptions. Oh, you can grow food, but certain people grow food better than you, and they know how to do it, and you don't know how to do it. It's too much work. These corporations will take care of it. Bill Gates, buying all the farmland, he'll take care of it. No, it's not. It's not how we got to go through life. We can be much more than that. We have to see that we have so much potential. We can set anything that we set our minds to. This is empowerment. And that right there is freedom.
I agree. I agree. So how do we even like
Yes.
going back to the whole political thing, like how do we even like start to organize people and do this with like with a two-tier system that's it's like they make us say you have this choice or this choice and there's no other choice, and they want people to follow along with that, and then you know I don't know, there's so many different things I could go into that with, but like
Yes.
but how the way those parties influence people and the way they make decisions about their everyday lives is what I'm
Yes.
saying. You know what I mean? So do you think it's there where we start, or do we start by organizing small communities, and how do we do this?
Well, when you just mentioned different solutions, if I asked anybody on average, what do you think should be done about this or that? I guarantee you their answer will probably be better than what comes out of politics. People are not
Yeah.
stupid. But that being said, so how do we organize? How do we do this step by step? So, I mean, this is why a lot of the works I do is trying to organize people together and starting to build communities, right? I have a networking section on the liberator.us where people can meet other people local to them. I have like 30 plus strategies of how you can meet others. I've been doing events in my local area here in Florida, and people are very active here. I'm working with a local business, and she tells me people are ready to stop paying taxes because the government didn't help them when all the hurricanes came and hit here. It's all people helping people. It's not the government. The government barely does anything. And if anything, the government is just people. We're all just people at the end of the day. And people care about each other. If they see someone drowning, they're going to help them. You know, it's like they're not going to wait for the National Guard or for FEMA or whatever to come and save this person. Florida is a good example of people who are already prepared and they're sick of the system. Being that I'm here, there's a lot of activity. So what we need to do is get the influencers on board to organize events bigger than me. I'm only a small channel, right? If let's say we have somebody with hundreds of thousands of subs, they can create a much bigger event than me and organize people. Look at history and look at the Quakers, the abolitionists, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. What did they do? They used nonviolent resistance, civil disobedience. If we can utilize that strategy plus the moral suasion that the abolitionists had, I think we will be very successful. But the influencers have to be a part of it, to some degree or another. There's plenty of them already in independent media, and some of them brag about their viewership being higher than CNN. Well, if that's the case, then why haven't we made change? I believe firmly, thus far, that most people who are truthers in the truth freedom community are not really acting or using the potential that they have. I mean, you can go to their comment section and people will say, where's the action steps? What do we have to do? How do we organize? We got to take down the system. But nobody's actually saying what to do. There's no action page on their website. There's no way that people can organize. And for me, it's like, I have to be the one to do this. I have to start my own channel. I have to start doing it, show by example. So be it. Right. So I'm building up the base, and I'm networking. I'm even going to colleges because I think my generation has the greatest potential to change this world, considering the fact that we're the future. We have technology at our fingertips. If you have 50 people on TikTok, you can't censor that, right? So there's a lot of components with that. But that being said, anybody can do it anywhere they are. I lived in Pennsylvania. I was in the mountains. There was nobody around me, and I still met other people. So you organize with them, right? And then you develop a strategy, and maybe you buy land together. You know, maybe you start saying, okay, we have to create a business out of this, make it profitable if we have to, and like start getting very strategic with it. But on the world scale, if we want to see the world change rapidly, I would say, number one, call out the corporations and the poisons that are destroying our world, right? If you're an influencer out there, let's say you have more than 100,000 subs or whatever, right? You call out the influencers. You call up some of your biggest friends, right? Like, I'm going to be interviewed on Mike Adams 4 days from now, and I know he has Alex Jones' phone number. Alex Jones has Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Trump, all of their numbers. If they just gave phone calls to each other within not even a day, we'd have permaculture food forest throughout the whole nation. People would be coming together. We would end poverty, hunger. People would be more self-reliant, and we would be free. Just that simple. The influencers can do it so quickly. If without the influencers, this process is going to take a little bit longer, right?
Yeah, and I was going to say, there's a couple of things I just wanted to say. That I love that you're getting involved at your age. You're 24, and like I'm like 20 years older than you, but I feel like my generation might be like the way showers. Your generation might be the action takers. Like, you know, like my generation sets the pace. Your generation takes it and kicks it into gear but I mean, the thing is like, I don't, I'm in more into like the paranormal and UFOs, and I talk a lot of conspiracy. I do call out a lot of bullshit, like with the hurricanes and all that. I do like to call out, the tyranny that's going on, But one thing I noticed is that there's not a lot of younger people into this stuff, it seems like. Or maybe or do you see that as well? Or
I think you got to find them. I meet individuals who say to me, "Oh, I came across Mark Passio's work when I was 15." I'm like, wow. And they're just there. They don't produce content. They're not online, so you don't see them, but they're there. And there's people like that all the time that I'm meeting from the events I go to. And going to USF and the colleges here in Florida, I'm realizing many are ready for this. It's just about bringing those people together. So again, become the event organizer in your area, because I guarantee you, you're not alone. You think you're alone. You think you're the only one who thinks what you think, but you're wrong. You're just straight up wrong. Everybody recognizes there's something wrong with the world. They just don't know how to navigate it. You can help them. Just be there for them. Be there for guidance. People are like, how do I defeat depression and anxiety? Just be there for them. That's step one. Create the conversation. Get in the door, right? That's the key. People are afraid to take the first step. Like Buddha said, the hardest step is the first step, and then going all the way. That's like the two hardest steps on like the path to truth, he said, right? So let's take that wisdom into our own lives. And we detail this, by the way, all in the book, Natural Intelligence to Technology of Peace, like this strategy. And basically from every audience point of view, whether you're in the military, you're in the school, you're medical, every single audience, we detail from your point of view how you can specifically take action. So it would take me a long time to describe each one, right? But in the book, we detail that. And we even made personalized documents, which you can find right now. Go to nita.one, and you'll see we have documents for every single audience. And we even take certain influencers and speak it in their language. So imagine how strategic we're getting, because we're like, we need to solve this problem now. and so I feel a more obligation. I followed independent media since I was 13, and I was seeing in the comments, and I was questioning, I'm like, if these people know all these truths, why aren't they like big? Like, why doesn't everybody know this? Like, why? Like, I started asking those questions early on. I feel like a lot of people ask those questions early on when they come across knowledge that they find to be important. They're like, how come this isn't viral? Well, it's simple. We need to work together. We need to make it go viral. We have to get strategic with it. There's people out there who are good at hashtags, and they set up websites, and they post videos, like 6 TikTok videos a day. That's this generation. You want to affect this generation? TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, right? Most of the truth community is not on there. So that's just the way things are. But there are a lot of people. You just got to find them. The key to like the voting and the politics and the elections is I created something called the Never Vote campaign, where I have a simple website and people can print signs and put it next to political signs, and it says Never Vote with a website on it that teaches them why voting is not the solution from a statist point of view, right? Like statism, what that belief system is, and also historic point of view, and also asking questions for the individual conscience and recognizing, wait, if you don't have the right to commit violence on someone, how can you delegate or give that right to somebody else? Simple questions like that, which for me, when I first came across, I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, I can't wrap my head around this. But once you understand it, you realize, wow, okay, this is why there can't be a political solution. People like Aidan Ballou, the abolitionist, talked about moral power being more powerful than political power, because when you can get people together, the possibilities are endless. Okay, we can create change now directly, without waiting, without asking for permission, and it'll last. It'll not just be like a 4-year type of thing. So you can put that sign out on your lawn and you don't have to take it down, and it's controversial slightly to cause a bit of question and debate. So I made that campaign for a reason. Similarly, artofliberty.org. If you don't know his work, you definitely should. Artofliberty.org. He has tons of graphics and tons of resources for everybody, including government employees, people who are in the system and don't know how to get out of it. He created like the Thick Red Line Project. He's doing a bunch of fundraising, a lot of philanthropy. He helped with the New Hampshire Free State Project. He's in Arizona trying to help set up stuff there too. So there's people all over the place. Jim Gale bought 50 acres in St. Cloud. He's a demonstration site inviting world leaders to come to his spot. He's making videos every day saying, hey, Elon, check this out. Hey, Trump, hey, Tucker, all these people, right? Come to Galt's and I'll show you. And you know what? His outreach does work sometimes. He had Robert F. Kennedy Jr., sit down at Galt's Landing. And by the way, Jim Gale is somebody who I co-authored this book with, Natural Intelligence, right? So he literally sat down with the Kennedys. He's in touch with them. So we're literally right there. We're in touch with some of these big names that if they want to create change, they can do it, right? We literally have their contacts. So as far as I'm concerned, the path is laid out before us. And if they don't do it, I have to put the blame on them, right? It's like you have the contacts, like Mike Adams has the contact to this person to that person. I laid it out before for you. And if that doesn't happen, I'm going to have to start blaming independent media. Something's wrong in independent media. If they can't create the change after 20 or 30 years of complaining about the problem, I got to start complaining independent media. And I don't want to do that because I thought these people are on my side. I thought these people are truthers. They care about freedom. They care about the world. But if they can't do what is right in front of their faces, that is so easy to do, obvious. And yes, it takes a little courage, takes getting past some fears, but that's any change. It requires a sacrifice. If you don't recognize that's a requirement, then you're just going to be complaining on your talk show forever. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was hoping that someone would take up initiative and try to fight the homeless. I mean, because it's I don't agree with the wars, but I feel like a lot of the homeless are veterans, and I talk about this a lot. And they
Yeah,
fought for us, and like look what they're
it's true.
now they're out in the street. You know what I mean? And they don't deserve that. And I feel like the homeless epidemic has a lot to do with the drug epidemic. They kind of go hand in hand because a lot of the people that are
Yes.
homeless are are because of drugs, but there also are people who are homeless who got the bad end of the stick, which when that thing that happened 4 years ago that I can't really talk about. People lost their businesses and then they lost their livelihood, and some of those people ended up homeless. So
Right.
there has to be a way to straighten this out. Like Asheville, for example, I heard, Asheville gets leveled, and I heard the government offered them $750 each that they have to pay back. I'm like, are you serious? These people lost their whole homes, their livelihoods. They don't have food or water, and you're offering them $750. They can't even spend that money because it's leveled. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure they can in some way or another, and I'm hoping a
Mhm.
lot of those people have insurance on their properties to where they'll get reimbursed and they can buy a new house. I don't know how that's going to work for a lot of people. I don't know everybody's individual circumstance, but I know a lot of people are out of a home right now. Some
Mhm.
people, it happened in Florida. I know there was 3 million people without power in Florida. But it
Yep.
was weird. Like, from what I heard, I had a guest on the other night. She told me that it seemed like the people really like came together and tried to
Yeah.
help out in Florida. You know what I mean? So it's nice to know that people are doing some things, but it's not enough to where we're seeing enough action, and it's making a difference where
Mhm.
we can
Because
change the world. And I want to be like
yeah,
you. I want to change the world.
we got to be unified. So the main message: grow food, not lawns. Right? Hashtag grow food, not
Yeah,
lawns. Simple. And then we invite the influencers and the corporations to sell life instead of death. That's it. One and two. That's the step-by-step process, at least on the permaculture side. The voluntarism side may say, hey, educate people about moral, philosophy in the sense of like, statism and voluntarism, very basic ideas, help them see their own contradictions using the Socratic method and candles in the dark method that Larkin Rose also talks about. Maybe also show them his movie, The Jones Plantation, which is awesome, by the way, for those of you who haven't seen it. And then with that act of moral suasion, you can start taking nonviolent resistance or civil disobedience actions. So go out and walk on the streets, with no arms, but with your friends and family and or whatever in your community, and saying, holding signs, like doing a peaceful protest if you want. I'm not a fan of protests so much, but I would say one town not paying taxes, or one town just saying no. Just saying no. That simple lost word, as Mark Passio calls it, is no. Right. So just saying no ends the system, but doing it en masse in scale. All it takes is one town showing why they say no to the rest of the world, and then maybe even videotaping it saying, hey, we're saying no. And if they come and attack us, our own people attacking their own people, because that's what they claim to represent, then it would be hypocrisy shown in broad daylight. Because we're not violent people. We're just living our lives saying no because we don't want to give our money to that system. So if cops and law enforcement were to come in, it would seem hypocritical. These people are here to serve us. So, why are they attacking us, the people they claim to serve, for doing no wrong, for
yeah,
simply wanting to keep their own earnings? So
yeah,
those are two examples right there of how we shift this world.
yeah. And I was going to say it'd be one thing if the money that we gave away for taxes was going to a good cause, or like if it was going to build the back better of the country. Like they always say like build better, but like if it was going to do that, that would be great. But it's not. It's going to fund wars. And I don't have any problem with anybody from Israel or Ukraine, but a lot of our money is going to those places. Meanwhile, I say this all the time. People are homeless here. So why are we
Yeah.
funding wars when we can't fund our own country? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's crazy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like I said, that's not to hurt anybody's feelings from another country. That's just like looking at things like logically. Like, we can't clean up our own backyard, and we want to throw shit in somebody else's or something. I don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you're
It's
absolutely, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. By the way, I'm not in Pennsylvania. I'm in Florida now, but I was in Pennsylvania. But like I said, you can find people anywhere. And yes, the change can happen rather quickly if people simply understand those two concepts which we lay out in the book, voluntarism and permaculture, which I see as the future, frankly, the inevitable future, just because it's simply within our nature. It's simply recognizing who we are, our self-ownership, natural as part of us. And people say, yeah, I own myself, but at the same time, voting somebody else into office who then has the right to coerce them and write down on a piece of paper literally anything that can determine their life, their property, their possessions, and their neighbors, their life, their property. It's like if you give someone that power and you furnish that seat and you say, hey, somebody can be an authority over my own life, what do you expect is going to happen? All sorts of psychopaths and people are going to use that position because they're going to the ones who want power. The average person doesn't want power. The average person doesn't want to rule over their fellow man. They're like, I just want a better world. I just want things to be good. And then when a politician goes on stage and says that, everybody's like, yeah, he's saying what we want. But that makes the politician more deceiving, because when you mix the truth with the lies, now it makes the lies more dangerous, and now more people are willing to obey and be less responsible with their own lives. So no matter what, you fail. As long as you put somebody in control of your own life, you lose. It's just that simple. It's either you're responsible and you own yourself, or you don't. You don't own like 90% of yourself and the other 10% you give away to the government. It's not how it works. It's like you either own yourself 100% or you don't. You don't say I own like 90%
I
of this
agree.
chair.
I agree.
50% of this chair belongs to somebody else. It's like, what the heck? It's like it's either you own the chair or you don't, or you both own the chair or you don't. It's like, what's going on here? Or you're giving it away voluntarily. Like this is an object, and you choose what to do with this object. It's yours. It's property. But this idea of property may go away with this idea of you will own nothing and be happy, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, going back to that, do we have the right to not pay taxes? Do you know anything about that, like that Commonwealth law and stuff? And that's weird, like, because they say or the common law, I guess. I say Commonwealth because Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth, which but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
do you know anything about that? Is there any like validity to that, or?
This, as far as I'm concerned, is a big distraction from what I'm talking about,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Because when you
yeah,
talk about paperwork and getting people to sign their name a certain way and ask for permission to be free, you're not really free. And it's just that simple. So, I mean, if you're
yeah,
writing down on a fancy piece of paper to solve another fancy piece of paper, you're not enacting freedom. Like, freedom is a moral, spiritual, physical type of aim. And so you have to put it through action. That's if you want to enforce your rights, you have to exercise your rights. You have to actually act. You can't just put it on a piece of paper and declare something to be true. Like if I said 1 + 1 = 2 on a piece of paper, and I say, here I hereby declare this to be true, everybody will say, yeah, it's true. But it's not the piece of paper that made it true. It's because it just inherently is true. But people get
yeah.
the paper confused with reality. And when they do that, they start treating the paper as if it is reality. And so they worship it as a god. And that's, again, statism and this belief in authority. So now we're not in reality anymore. I want to operate on full reality.
I agree. I just thought of something really important. And I think I had someone message me about this. A lady was like, she's like, I like the idea of being sovereign. She's like, but
Mm-hmm.
I rely on the government for Social Security because she's retired, and she
Yep.
relies on the government for Medicare. And I was like, well, we have a lot of people like that, right? And there's people
Yep.
who are on disability. So it's like
Right.
for us to move past this, we would have to find ways to also create income sources for
Right.
elderly people so they don't have to be relying on the government, which is that's a big thing, but I think it can be done. I think
Permaculture.
we're moving. Yeah, talk about that. Like, yeah, that's it. That's
So
amazing.
again, these two ideas work perfectly together. You got the freedom, mental, moral aspect, and then the physical. How do we put it into action and apply it to our lives where we can become economically free? Because people, when you start talking about freedom, they start bringing in economics. And for me, it's always like, well, economics is kind of second to that because I care about us being free. And people always use economic justifications for our enslavement. Like, oh, because we are poor, because we need to go to war and capture these people's stuff and take their stuff so we can have it for ourselves. Like, that's basically history in a nutshell. Is let's capture these people because they have something that we don't, and then let's use it for ourselves, and then let's claim it as ourselves and keep it away from everybody else, right? It's like a very
Yeah.
barbaric, militaristic practice, but we've been upholding that for thousands of years, and we don't know how to escape it. And so that's why people blame money and they blame economics all day, even though the problem is much deeper. People believe in money. They believe in the piece of paper. They believe in something having a value, which some people may not see that value. Like, I can look at a piece of gold or a piece of like paper money and be like, it's just a thing. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is family, friends, environment, nature. So permaculture is the key because it connects us with nature, but also provides us a food source and an income source, right? Because now we can barter that product with other people. We can share it. We can trade it. We can consume it. We can compost it, create other new things. I mean, we can stack functions and do vertical gardening and all sorts of different types of things. We can use every part of the tree, not just the fruit. I mean, when you've realized we can build buildings out of bamboo, out of banana trees, and all sorts of like uses for plants that we never imagined before that they use in other countries, we start rebooting this economy like nuts. We start decentralizing everything like wild. And if we use permaculture, we can feed our whole family on not even like a small plot, like nearly a quarter acre. You can feed a whole family, and even like a whole town on a whole acre. I mean, gosh, if you just stack the functions enough, you add chicken coops and you add herbs and spices and you do it in layers. We just have to be intelligent. The problem is we have all the information at our fingertips. We're just not using it.
Yeah.
Right?
We're not
So it's just
acting,
that simple. Yeah. We just have to be intelligent, and that's it. We have now AI and technology, so let's use it. I'm not against it. I never said it was bad. I'm saying that we need to use our natural intelligence with it, because if we become only dependent on the AI, we're never going to be free. We're never going to live our lives. We're never going to survive because it's going to take over everything. But if we use our natural intelligence, we can say, wow, we can evolve past this and we can further develop artificial intelligence, and we'll allow it to. Because it's like you get to this point of, people talk about the AI singularity, if you've ever heard of this concept, and a bunch of talks about how AI will take over the world. We permit it. We permit these things in existence. We create the governments. We create the AI. It's up to us, right? Even Elon said in one of his tweets, he said, we need to raise the human consciousness. He said that. And I asked the question, I'm like, well, Elon, you recognize that, but how will you do it? Is his idea to just implant chips into people's brains? Because that's not how, in my view, we're going to raise consciousness.
Like, maybe that's why he has all those 6,000 satellites, because he thinks he's going to get everybody networked up and he's going to be maybe he wants to rule the world, maybe he has some like evil plan to I don't know. Yeah, I hope it's not like that.
As long as we're dependent on man or man-made things, it's never going to last. It's never sustainable. Right? We have to build it into the fabric of reality, into nature, and needs to work with reality. It can't go against that reality. It can't be an illusion. So, we build all sorts of systems we think are inherent. Like government, we think is just natural and necessary and just built into our reality. So we treat it as such. And when we build permaculture into our reality, then it will be like effortless. Everybody will be practicing it, and everybody will say, yeah, this is normal. This is like what we've always been doing. But see, people are always fearful of taking that beginning step because that's how it's been in history for everything. When the person first discovered the microscope, when Albert Einstein was going through school, I mean, they faced so much resistance by everybody they met. Albert Einstein was resistant to all the teachers and all the professors and all these people. And this goes for every single inventor almost in history because they have something new to share, and people are always fearful of that. But once they get used to it, everybody takes it for granted. And then they're like, yeah, it's just part of life. So if we build into that fabric of reality all the things we know is necessary and good, that's it. It's just that simple. We have to share these ideas, teach it to our kids, have their kids teach it to their kids, build an environment that supports those ideas, and you're set. And you're even going to be a beacon of light to others. And Galt's Landing, again, Jim's 50-acre property is an example of this. I'm not just talking about it. It's happening. Jim is getting access to land all throughout the country with his network and his council of 12 that he developed. He bought land in Florida where he's demonstrating the solution with off-grid houses and Airbnbs and 3D printed buildings and grazing cattle and animals and having food forest and filming videos and they're showing it to the world. I mean, this is what we can all do, even if it's just our backyard.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's also a guy. I think I told you about this last time. The Anunnaki researcher, Michael Tellinger.
Yes.
He started a thing called One Small Town, and they're doing it in Lebanon, and they're doing it in I can't remember where they totally they have a couple of them set up around the world. Because
Yep.
he's from South Africa, right? So like it would be more common for him to do this over there, right? But he's started this One Small Town initiative where they've broken off from society in these towns, and I think everybody in the town works literally 3 hours a week. That's it. And they have bakeries, they have ice cream shops, they have they have a happy town, and they're doing it in Lebanon of all places, which is usually really against how it is over there. I mean, I'm not like being you know what I mean. It's just harder to do things over there. Because of all the different religions and factions and stuff like that, and government.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's like 8 different factions of government over there. Yet they were still able to get their own town there, and they're able to do it in a peaceful way. And they're that's one. I don't know.
It's so true. Dude, you could look up greening the desert, right? People are like, well, you can't grow food in the deserts of Israel or Gaza. It's like, look up greening the desert. There's people using permaculture right now to green the desert and bring it back to life using permaculture. Things that you would think are impossible. Pat Miletich is working with Dr. Will Spencer. Pat is one of the contributors to that book I wrote.
I was a big fan of his. I'm a big UFC and MMA fan. I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I can get you in touch with him. You can have him on the show if you want.
That would be amazing. I'd love to have Pat on the show. Yeah, could you really? That'd be awesome.
Yes, I could. He's super cool dude. And the thing is like he's sharing science about how we can reverse heavy metals in the soil, and the chemists are disagreeing with him, saying that's impossible. It's like he's having to face a world of chemists. He's not even a chemist himself, and he's having to convince these chemists that they're wrong, So it's like this is what he has to deal with. And he's working with Dr. Will Spencer in that. He's helping farmers rejuvenate their land and reverse everything, all the chemicals. We can reverse it. Even those so-called forever chemicals, Marjorie Wildcraft, who's also a contributor to this book, recently found the solution that reverses the forever chemicals. I mean, think about how big of a news story that should be. That should be everywhere. That should be like all over the mainstream media, but it isn't, right? So it's our goal to do it, and that's why all these people are coming together. And they're saying we need to organize in order to create change. Jim Gale and I have been getting very strategic with this. Why we created, all these projects and why he created the council, because we need to be coming together. We have too many people in independent media sharing their own stuff. They all agree with each other, but yet they're not unified in the same message. That needs to change. It needs to change. Like on your show, maybe at the end of every show, you say, all right, share this hashtag or let's start growing food, get in your neighbors, network with them. Like just give them one action step that can be shared everywhere, like from our book, right? And that would be the key, because it's up to the influencers if we're really going to expect change. At the end of every show, they can do that, right? Or on their website or on the threads or whatever. But there's also, by the way, Exit and Build. Look up Derek Bros and John Bush. John Bush and Live Free Academy, they're setting up towns everywhere in Mexico and other places of America. They're going around the whole state. They're doing tours. They're doing all sorts of amazing things. And again, they're not like super big in the independent media, but they're getting out there because these solutions are like, oh my gosh, to people. People find them irresistible when they start looking into it. So there you go. Greening the desert, that's like just a demonstration. And then Exit and Build. And then they have other projects as well, like the People's Reset and then the Greater Reset. They own those websites as well.
Wow, that's amazing. This has been amazing. Well, let me ask you this. We have about 5 minutes. So is there anything you wanted to cover before we finish up? Like, I know you have some events coming up, and I'm going to put one of them on one of the flyers. I'm going to make a thumbnail. I have a couple other shows to do tonight, but I'll do the thumbnail at some point tonight. Now, I do a lot of shows. It's crazy, but I mean,
it's all good. Yeah, we have an event on November 8th at Galt's Landing, which is Jim's location. So if you guys want to check it out for yourself, you're welcome to come. We invite you guys to check it out for yourself, these solutions we're talking about. And you can network with us. We're going to do a movie screening there for a Taoist documentary by the YouTuber George Thompson, because I'm trying to bridge connections between influencers. And the Taoist community is relatively open to a lot of ideas about unifying with nature. So I was like, why not connect with them? I wrote a book on Taoism, so it works. So we are going to do a movie screening there, and then also a book signing, and then networking and strategizing for a big event in June. June, we want to do perhaps one of the biggest freedom events ever done in the United States or in the world. I want to bring together Mark Passio, Larkin Rose, and some of the names that I think are highly energetic, inspirational folks that focus on voluntarism, and we'll make a whole event dedicated to that in permaculture in the food forest, so we can make an awesome event. And so I'm working with people who are really good at making events from Pennsylvania. We'll have them come down and we'll plan it all out. It'll be awesome.
Yeah,
So you can join us and you can help us strategize and volunteer if you want to help or whatever. But I
yeah,
welcome
and
anybody.
I can have you back on the show too. I'd love to have you back on. Like, if the more you want to promote this stuff, I want to help as much as I can. I really
Thank you.
do. I think you're doing a good job. I think this is a really big thing, and the people, someone in the chat says, Warrior for Truth says, Corey, thank you for all your work bringing people together for change. I can put that up on the screen, and
I appreciate
you
it.
know, yeah, and but just I think everybody said you're on point tonight, man. So thank you. So this was amazing.
So
You
are
know.
you. Here's the deal, right? When I get involved with colleges and universities, I would love for you to share your message with them at some point in time. Maybe I set up like a Zoom call or whatever, or a show like this, and we project it on like a big screen. And just imagine, what if you sharing your experiences, why you do what you do. I think just that alone would be interesting. Be like, why do you produce content, and what if people view your stuff as extreme? I would ask you questions like that, and see, because my goal with the colleges and universities is just to open people's minds. And I shared with you like that strategy before of like what I intend to do is just empower and inspire. So, for me, it's inspiring just to hear people's journeys. And you talk to so many different folks from all different backgrounds. So I think you would be awesome at some point in times who want to do that with. And I want to bring on other people, who have
Yeah, I'll
different
come on your show
perspectives.
for sure. Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah,
come
like
on.
yeah, but well,
That
for
would be
the younger
awesome.
generation, I think you guys, you want to see it. Well, I want you to say why, and speak to that generation directly. What are you concerned about, and what do you think they need to know? And I want to probably do that as I start doing events on college campus. Right now, I'm gathering my core group of people. I'm still finding connections with professors and student organizations, and then once we find the right people and the right venues, then we're doing it. I already do events, so it's not going to be difficult for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. This is amazing. Wow. Well, thank you so much, man. And anytime you want me to come on your show or when you come back on here, you have an
I
open
appreciate it.
invitation to come back on. This was amazing. Everybody's saying
Yeah,
like what in the comments are saying like what a great show this was, and like I'm down to start helping, and I'd like to I mean like, it would help me probably if I connected to a younger audience too, because then they could start learning about some of the truths that are going on
right.
as far as like some of the stuff that people are experiencing and stuff. Because when I was 21 years old, I had no clue about any of that. I mean, I'll take it back. I was listening to like UFO and paranormal radio, but that, I was listening to Art Bell, and he didn't get into too much of the truther stuff. He was more just like, paranormal and Bigfoot and UFOs. But like, I didn't have my reawakening until like 2015,
Yeah,
and that was like when I was like exposed to like bigger truths, and that was, yeah, but yeah, it's interesting for sure. Yeah, I'll
you'll
help you any
inspire
way I
so many
can, man.
people. You'll
You
inspire
know.
so many people, man. I guarantee you. And then once people start looking into your work, their mind will expand like wild. When they want to. And that's the thing, is like there's always that little bridge. And I think my events can be that bridge for people to start opening their mind. And then they meet people like you, and you're just down to earth saying, "Hey, I care about this world, and this is my experience." And people are going to sympathize with you just because you're not a bad person. You're trying to find the truth. It's like I think the intentions are going to show at the end of the day. When they look around the world, they see everybody's fake and trying to get something out of them, and then they see content creators like yourself and others. It's just going to shine like a beacon. The problem is they just aren't exposed to it. They just don't see it. They don't know that it yet exists. And all we have to do is just say, "Here it is."
Yeah, another somebody, Sandy Song Joy she said that we should broadcast part of your event live. Here's an if you ever want to do this, if you have someone that wants to go around your like event with a camera, I can stream from here, and they can stream from there, and I can get your event some coverage. Like if you want to, have someone, do that. I don't know. We could do that's an option too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Have you connected with Fearless Floyd by any chance?
No, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I feel like maybe you should connect with him. Yeah, it's like I want to help bridge some connections, but you guys are both super cool, and he was ecstatic about that too. And he's like, "Yeah, if you ever need anything, so maybe I'll connect you guys and can meet each other." But yeah, yeah. Dr. Shiva,
Wow.
yeah, Dr. Shiva has met Jim Gale actually, so he's aware of permaculture and these solutions. But again, is he sharing it with his audience? Is he going around like these? It's like how many people know about it, but yet they aren't even like willing to share it with their audience, right? It's like it's amazing to me. It's like at least share it and see what your audience has to say. But it's incredible. But yeah, Shiva, I mean, he shares a lot of information. Nothing on statism, nothing on voluntarism. Doesn't like that movie by Larkin Rose, The Jones Plantation. I mean, that hit like Broadway. It went to a lot of places, but it did not go like to the world where it needed. And then IMDb started throwing in fake reviews after a while, and of course that was like kind of expected. But everybody should check out that movie because that's like a first of its kind. And he plans on doing more movies. It was very well produced. He had some really reputable actors in there, and they were also invited on local TV stations. And they would ask him questions like, "What is this movie about?" And he's like, "It's kind of like The Matrix, but it's also kind of like V for Vendetta and all these others." They're like, "Really?" And yeah, it's a good movie. It'll help you see past this whole political game. That movie will help you see why the two-party system and the three-party system or any party system, frankly, is just not going to help us unless it's voluntary. Unless it's completely a voluntary, actual self-ownership based system. But as far as I'm concerned, right now it's just a circus game, and it's tricking people that they believe that they have control over their own lives by giving them a vote.
Yeah. And I one thing I want to say, I said this on my show the other day. I said, now's not the time for us to wonder. Now's the time to act. But I mean, we need to act in intelligent, smart ways that are going to help
Yes.
people,
Natural intelligence, not artificial intelligence. That system created by man is not going to help us. We got to start acting with nature, with God, with truth.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we already know about all the corruption. Now's the time to like make smart moves and like do something about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody grow food. Connect with people in your area.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Cory. And I'd love to have you back on, and I'd love to do this again. And I want to connect with people too. So anybody you want to connect me with, and and same, and anything I can do to help.
Because I know you wanted to talk to David Icke too. I'll give you his family emails. They don't always get back, but they'll do he'll do an interview with you. Like if you've never talked with him before, he'll talk with you because he likes to meet new people.
I've never had David Icke. I'd love to have David. I was supposed to have Gareth on my show, but I think it was right around when David Icke's daughter died. That would be Gareth's sister, and I think it was a bad time, so it didn't end up happening. So, but I'd love to have David Icke on my show. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you these different people.
Yeah.
And then, if you have any connections for me in my way, whatever, I'm just returning the favor. Thank you for having me on. I'll do whatever I can too to help spread the word.
Yeah. Any guest that I had on, I can send them your way or whatever. Like same goes. If you see anybody that interests you, that you want to talk to, just let me know, and I'll,
Sounds good. You talk to a lot of good folks, so that might happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Cory, and until next time, and take care, man. And thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. And I'll be back on at 9 with Aurora Diamond Heart. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Have a good night.
Peace out.
Bye.